Twin flame feminine, it's Christmas morning and your phone screen remains empty. You wake with a hopeful flutter in your chest, secretly wishing to see his name light up your notifications. A simple, Merry Christmas message, some small sign that he cares. But as the hours tick by, that hope slowly fades. You check your phone again and again, still nothing. Each moment of silence feels heavier than the last on a day meant for love and togetherness. On this sacred morning, his absence cuts especially deep. You tell yourself he must be busy or caught up in holiday chaos. But deep down, an unsettling truth creeps in. He chose not to reach out. Each hour of silence that passes feeds a growing mixture of hurt, confusion, and even a faint anger. You wonder if somehow you did something wrong, if you misread things or expected too much. You even begin to wonder if you pushed him away. There's that familiar pang of self-doubt tightening in your chest as you analyze every detail of your last interactions, searching for clues. But no logical explanation can fully soothe the ache, because the one thought that hurts the most is the one thought you can't shake. Maybe he just doesn't care as much as you believed he did. By evening, the festive glow outside contrasts sharply with the loneliness you feel inside. Something inside you snaps. It's subtle at first, a quiet, firm realization that you cannot keep living on this emotional roller coaster. There comes a point in your twin flame journey when something inside you shifts so profoundly that you barely recognize yourself. Perhaps it's happening to you right now. The love you feel for him is still there, immense and deep, but the desperate longing that once fueled you has begun to evaporate. The connection remains real, but the neediness that once came with it has died off. Sitting alone on this Christmas night, staring at a silent phone, you realize you're just done. It's shocking to notice this change in yourself. The man, your divine masculine, whom you once defended with every fiber of your being, suddenly feels like the source of your deepest pain. In this moment, he's not the hero or missing piece you always believed he was. Instead, he feels distant, inconsiderate, and if you're honest, you feel disappointed and irritated. You never imagined you'd use those words about him. The very thought unsettles you. How can you love someone so much, yet feel this rising frustration, this strange dislike for how he's treating you right now? You start to look at him differently in your mind's eye, not through rose-colored glasses of desire and hope, but with a sharp, sober clarity. You're remembering all those moments, so many holidays, important days, when you overlooked his absence or excused his half-hearted efforts. It's like a veil is lifting. You're finally seeing him with awake eyes instead of the romantic haze of memory. And suddenly, you don't like what you see. This shock isn't because you've stopped loving him. It's because you've stopped abandoning yourself. This is the stage where the pedestal you placed him on begins to crumble. The fantasy version of him that you carried in your heart, the one who would never hurt you, the one you believed destiny would eventually deliver, that image can't withstand the weight of reality anymore. For the longest time, you were in love with his potential, with the idea of what he could be. You saw the best in him, his soul, his promise, and clung to that vision, often at the expense of acknowledging what he was actually giving you, or not giving you, in the present. You cherished the future you imagined with him while tolerating a painful present. But now the future remains a dream, and the present is telling you a clear story. Something has to change. Your heart begins to reject what it once accepted without question. The behaviors you used to excuse, the emotional crumbs you used to convince yourself were enough, now they feel intolerable. Think about it, all those times he withdrew or let you down, all those excuses and disappearances you once forgave, you can't forgive them so easily now. You used to paint those red flags white because you truly believed in some greater destiny. But now, you can't romanticize these painful patterns anymore. You're exhausted by being tested by this connection over and over. You're done searching for profound meaning in every ounce of pain he put you through in the name of spiritual growth. For the first time, you ask yourself, why did I ever settle for so little and call it destiny? It's a heartbreaking question, but an empowering one. Because it means you're finally seeing that you deserve more. It isn't that he suddenly changed into someone else today. No, it's that you have grown. You've been growing quietly through every disappointment, and today was just the final push. This moment can feel terrifying, yes, but listen carefully, it isn't the collapse of your twin flame journey. It's the collapse of an illusion. The pain you're feeling right now is not the end of your love story, it's the end of the fantasies that kept you stuck. You are not losing your destined connection with him. You are losing the unrealistic expectations and rose-colored illusions that were never serving you. You find that you are no longer turned on by the mystery of his shadowy behavior. The push and pull dynamic that once felt like passion now just feels draining and pointless. Those little breadcrumbs of attention he gave you, the ones you once cherished for weeks, now only make you hungry for something real and substantial. In this collapse of illusion, your soul is starting to assert itself. It rejects anything that does not honor your worth. Deep down, you always knew you deserved a love that was whole and present, but you settled for half measures because you believed so strongly in this destiny. Not anymore. Your entire being, mind, heart, body, is done with the chase. Your nervous system, once addicted to the adrenaline of uncertainty, finally refuses to live in fight or flight for this connection. Your heart refuses to keep breaking itself on the same jagged edges of hope and disappointment. Your intuition, which once urged you to hold on and believe, now calmly tells you, no more waiting for someone who isn't choosing you right now. The anger or dislike you feel now is actually the clarity you once prayed for. It doesn't feel like a blessing, but it is. You're no longer blinded by longing. You can finally see his wounds, and you accept that you cannot heal them for him. You see his fear and understand you cannot rescue him from it. You feel his perpetual hesitation, and for the first time, you have zero interest in waiting around for him to overcome it. Your heart has matured beyond the fairy tales you told yourself. And that maturity is exactly what activates the final stage of this journey. Because when you pull your energy back, not as a tactic to get a reaction, but out of genuine self-preservation, something remarkable happens. He feels it. Even if he's miles away, even if he's celebrating with family and acting like everything's normal, on some level he senses that shift. The comfort he once enjoyed, the absolute certainty that you'd always be there, is no longer a given. And for the first time, a new kind of fear stirs in his chest. It's not the fear of commitment that used to make him run, or the fear of the connection's intensity that made him hide. It's the fear of losing you. Not just losing your love in some abstract sense, but losing access to you, losing the privilege of being the one your heart adored and fought for. He may not fully understand it yet, but a jolt in his soul tells him, the ground beneath him is now starting to shake. Understand this, your pulling away, your new boundary, is not an act of rejection. It's an act of realignment. It's your soul saying, this version of him, the one who takes me for granted and refuses to grow, cannot come with us into the next chapter of my life. He must either rise to meet you at your level or release you. And that truth, when it dawns on him, shakes him awake in a way nothing else ever could. You are not turning cold or heartless through this, you are becoming conscious and self-aware. You haven't lost your capacity to love, if anything, you're finally extending that love to yourself. You are not losing the profound love you have for him. You are losing the illusion that your love alone can save him. You are not pushing him away out of spite, you are pulling your own energy inward, aligning with what your soul truly needs and deserves. In that alignment, a powerful shift occurs. You realize you no longer crave the version of him that keeps running from himself. That version of him, the one who isn't ready and stays stuck in fear, no longer appeals to you. The only version of him your heart would even consider now is the one who would finally come home to you, home to truth, home to himself. Your heart now demands a higher form of love, because you have finally become a higher version of yourself. The woman you are tonight, after all this heartache, is wiser, stronger, and so aware of her worth. He now finds himself at a crossroads he never expected. The masculine has to either rise up to match this new energy you're embodying, or he has to let you go. There is no comfortable middle ground anymore. What he absolutely cannot do now is keep you in limbo, stringing you along in a place of confusion and lack that you've outgrown. You won't stand for it, your soul simply won't allow it. This, right here, right now, is why you've started to feel something as strong as dislike toward the man you love. It confused you at first, I know. You worried. Am I sabotaging our union? Is my heart closing off a sign that the connection is dying? You might have felt guilty or afraid that feeling this way meant the journey was collapsing, that it was a tragic ending. But what you felt, the frustration, the anger, that inner no, was not the death of your love. It was the death of the illusion that love has to equal pain. It was your liberation arriving in disguise. It was your soul rising up and saying, enough. Enough of the waiting. Enough of the hurting. Enough of carrying the weight of two hearts all by yourself. Disliking him, or rather, disliking the way he has behaved, was not a failure on your part, and it doesn't mean you're not spiritual enough, or loving enough. It was a breakthrough. It was you breaking out of an unhealthy pattern. For the first time, you saw him without that golden halo of potential. You saw the raw truth of who he is choosing to be right now, not the shining destiny of who he could become if he wanted to. And yes, that contrast cracked something deep within you. It cracked not to destroy the love you hold, but to destroy your willingness to accept anything less than love in its highest, healthiest form. You didn't fall out of love, my dear. You fell out of self-abandonment. Thank God you did. You stopped glorifying the bare minimum gestures he gave, and you stopped romanticizing his inconsistency by calling it divine mystery. You stopped labeling his emotional absence as just a phase, or a spiritual, dark night, without demanding that he actually show up in the 3D. In essence, you stopped confusing a soul contract with an obligation for you to suffer. A true twin flame connection isn't a license for one person to mistreat the other and say, it's all part of our soul lessons. You realize that unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance of bad behavior. Spiritually, love can be unconditional, but in the human world, a healthy relationship absolutely requires conditions like respect, communication, and effort. That realization, that you can love someone endlessly yet still walk away or set boundaries when they're hurting you, is perhaps the greatest act of self-respect a divine feminine can embody. You are finally living that self-respect. This is the part of the journey where you become unshakable. You're not turning cold or uncaring, you are simply clear now. You're not detached or indifferent, you're dignified, holding your head high. You haven't lost the connection at all, you've lost the desperation that once fueled it. You didn't stop caring about him, you stopped bleeding yourself dry for someone who wasn't giving you even basic emotional comfort in return. You stopped the slow emotional hemorrhage that was happening inside you. That is an immense victory. Because of this shift, your newfound insistence on being valued, the masculine can no longer remain in denial. Your growth shines a glaring spotlight on his stagnation. He sees, vividly, the gap between who he is right now and who he would have to become to stand beside you. He realizes he no longer has unlimited time to hide behind fear and indecision, because you're not lingering in that waiting room anymore. He finally understands that the divine feminine who once stayed through everything, who always forgave and always put him first, that woman now puts herself first, no matter what. That switching you absolutely terrifies him, but it also awakens him. It propels him into a make-or-break transformation. Your liberation, you freeing yourself from the old cycle, becomes his initiation into growth. Something profound happens when your heart shifts from craving him to questioning him. When you still love him deeply, you probably always will in some form, but you no longer accept his nonsense. When the bond remains unbreakable, but the old dynamics become unacceptable to you, that is precisely the moment the masculine often begins to wake up. Not when you were professing undying love. Not when you were chasing or patiently enduring. It happens now, in the quiet aftermath of your withdrawal. Why? Because your energy was always a safe haven for him, even when he didn't admit it. He always felt your unconditional love as a certainty, a comfort, a constant light guiding him no matter how far he drifted. He may not have thanked you for it, or even acknowledged it, but on some level he relied on it. Even while he ran, ghosted, or distracted himself with other people, he knew in the back of his mind that you were there, holding space for him. You were home. You were that steady gravitational pull of love that kept him from floating away completely. Even when he avoided or ignored you, he always assumed your presence would be waiting whenever he decided to return. But now that comfort has vanished. He reaches out energetically, even unconsciously, and feels nothing there. You are no longer impressed by his little promises. You no longer melt at, "I promise I'll change," or get swayed by what he could be. You only respond to what he proves himself to be. This change in you hits him like a shockwave. Suddenly, the soft place he always knew he could land isn't soft or guaranteed at all. You won't catch him if he falls this time, not unless he's reaching out to steady you in return. The masculine doesn't awaken through romantic fantasy. He took that for granted. He awakens through cold, hard reality. The reality that if he continues as he is, he could truly lose you. And so, he begins to feel the consequences of all those times he hesitated, all those times he chose pride over vulnerability. He begins to feel the pain of losing what he never properly valued out loud. Remember all those urgent, anxious feelings you used to carry? The desperate need to fix things, to talk, to make it right? Now he begins to feel an urgency he can't explain. A rising panic whenever he imagines what's happening. Often, the masculine must feel a genuine sense of loss to confront what he's been doing wrong. Your energy used to chase him, which allowed him to keep running. Now your energy stands still and challenges him. It holds up a mirror. Your love used to soothe his wounds. Now, without your constant reassurance, his anxiety doesn't fade. In fact, it builds and compels him to act. When you stopped idealizing him and started seeing him plainly, it forced him to look at himself with that same clarity. Imagine, he was so used to being seen as a hero by you, and now you see him as just a man, a flawed, avoidant, sometimes immature man. He sees all the gaps in himself, the difference between who he is and who he needs to become. He sees how, in contrast to your expanding soul, he's been playing it small. He might replay every conversation where you pointed out his fears and he denied them, and think, "God, she was right." The excuses he used to cling to. "I just need more time, I'm just stressed, it's complicated," now show themselves for what they were, defenses and cowardice. He realizes he's been sabotaging his own happiness. It's humbling and it's painful. He looks back at the dynamic that kept him comfortable, you always forgiving, you always making excuses for him, and he finally sees how much that dynamic disrespected the sacred connection you shared. He might actually cringe with shame. This is, honestly, a necessary part of his awakening. He has to face that darkness within himself. Your refusal to continue as things were forces him to face himself in a mirror. There's no buffer now, no rug to sweep things under, because you've removed the rug entirely. He knows that if he ever wants a place in your life again, he can't come back with sweet words or temporary promises like before. None of that will work on you now, and he knows it. He's even afraid to approach you with anything less than total authenticity, because he senses you'd see through the slightest falsehood in an instant. He understands now that nothing short of true transformation will allow him into your life. He can't just rehearse a nice speech, pour on a little charm, and expect you to welcome him back. He must show real change. He must act, consistently and wholeheartedly, not assume a few apologies will do. In short, he realizes you're not falling for potential anymore, you respond only to real effort. And ironically, effort was the one thing he avoided giving, until now. Because now he knows that without serious effort, without stepping up as a grown man who can contribute to your life, he's going to lose the woman his soul chose long ago. Your boundaries now stand as a challenge he knows he must rise to. Your higher standards are the measure he weighs himself against. He knows that if he doesn't measure up, he's out of your paradise. Your refusal to settle becomes the bridge he must cross to reach you. It's like you've set the bar high. He either leaps and grows to clear it, or he remains behind. This is likely the turning point in his awakening. If he truly wants a place in your life now, he must finally become the man you always believed he could be. Not just in fleeting moments or someday promises, but every day. He must meet his own soul at its level, instead of dragging your connection down to the level of his fear. Your refusal to accept anything less isn't the end of the love, Ironically, it's proof of how much you actually value the love. You value it so much that you refuse to see it dishonored any further. This is clear evidence of your expansion and growth. It's the moment you stop dancing with what if and start aligning with what is. You won't build your life on potential anymore, you're building it on reality. He realizes fully now that he can't just stroll back into your world as the same man who left it. You wouldn't let him in. He knows you will no longer contort yourself or bend your boundaries just to keep him around. With that realization, he takes his first real step toward transformation. Now, mark this. There comes a moment in this journey when the roles you two once played flip completely. The runner finds he can run no more, because there's no one chasing. The chaser has no desire to chase anymore. The energy flips. The dynamic reverses. Suddenly it's the masculine who begins to feel everything the feminine once carried. The longing, the anxiety, the fear of loss, all of it is now dawning on him, sometimes all at once, sometimes in waves. And this reversal, this great flip, becomes the force that could change everything going forward. While you rise in clarity, self-respect, and emotional wholeness, guess what he experiences? He feels the gaping absence of the version of you he always assumed would be there. Not even necessarily your physical absence. Perhaps you're still cordial or in light contact, but your energetic absence. He can't feel your heart shining on him like a constant warm sun anymore. He feels the absence of your emotional labor, all the effort you used to invest to keep things stable, to check in on him, to reassure him that everything was okay. Now he sits in the chaos of his own emotions without that soothing balm you always provided. He feels the absence of your constant reassurance, the kind words you'd offer, the forgiveness you'd extend whenever he messed up. He feels the absence of your unconditional presence. Before, even if he disappeared on you, he knew you'd be there ready to talk when he came back. Now, for the first time, he looks for your energy and doesn't find it waiting with open arms. He reaches out into the dark, and there is no hand there to hold him like there always was. Ironically, as you let go, he feels a pull toward you more intensely than ever. Not because you're tugging at him, you're not, you've released him, but because that release creates a magnetic snapback effect. You stopped holding on, and now the energy springs back toward you. He might begin to chase you now, perhaps in subtle ways, showing up where he knows you'll be, or sending a casual text just to test the waters. But one thing is different. This time it's coming from a genuine realization, not ego or impulse. If he reaches out now, it's with a sincerity and urgency that was never there before. He tortures himself with thoughts of you moving on, picturing you smiling and laughing with someone else, maybe even spending next Christmas morning in another man's arms. It terrifies him, because now, for the first time, he truly fears losing you, the real you, for good. When the feminine pulls away like this, it rings an alarm in the masculine soul. It's like a spiritual siren blaring. Wake up or lose her. It forces him into a crossroads. He realizes at a soul level that he either transforms now or he's going to watch you walk away into a life without him, possibly into the arms of someone new, someone who will cherish you as he should have. He also realizes, in a painfully ironic way, that he helped create this new you, this woman strong enough to walk away. Through his neglect and silence, he pushed you into valuing yourself enough to say enough. The irony isn't lost on him. The very actions born of his fear of losing control have now cost him the control he thought he had. He's finally understanding that your love was never a guarantee or an entitlement. It was a gift, and one he mishandled badly. You were always giving, always open, always forgiving. That was extraordinary, not ordinary, and he treated it like something that would always be there no matter what. Now he's realizing just how rare it is to be loved like that. Your newfound distance, your clear dislike of being mistreated, becomes a mirror reflecting back at him. For the first time, he sees just how emotionally unavailable he's been. He sees how many excuses he's made. I'm not ready, I need to work on myself, it's not the right time. And how hollow those excuses sound now. That mirror shatters his ego, the ego that once whispered, "She'll never leave, she'll always understand." It destroys the comfortable illusion that you'd wait forever, no matter what he did. He starts losing things he took for granted. He loses the privilege of your gentle, patient softness. And that loss begins to awaken a new strength in him, a drive to step up that he never had to tap into before. He loses the comfort of knowing you're always there, and that absence awakens a genuine desire in him to fight for this connection, perhaps for the first time ever. He loses the version of you who needed him to feel complete, and surprisingly, that loss pushes him to consider growing into the version of himself who could actually deserve the now independent, self-complete you. Divine Feminine, your resistance, even your momentary dislike of his current self, isn't going to kill the connection. If anything, it might resurrect his sense of purpose. Think of it like a defibrillator shock, painful, yes, but reviving. It's calling forth the masculine energy that is capable of loving you openly, fiercely, and without fear. When you stopped running toward him, it forced him to run toward himself, to finally face his own heart and his own demons. And in that inner journey, there's a chance he will find the courage to come running back to you, not because he's lonely or misses the ego boost of your devotion, but because he finally understands the value of what he nearly lost. He finally realizes this connection isn't just some ordinary fling he can replace. It's irreplaceable. His awakening isn't the end of the road, it's the beginning of his transformation. It might get messy, he might resist and stumble at first. But the moment he truly chooses to rise, not to appease you, but because his soul finally remembers what it was made for, that moment is the beginning of a new chapter for him. Divine Feminine, the moment you truly stopped accepting the old dynamic, you didn't just change yourself, you changed the frequency of the whole connection. The old rules, where he ran and you chased, where you gave and he took, no longer apply. You are not biding time waiting for him to wake up anymore. You are awake. And once awakened, you cannot pretend to be blind again. You can't go back to how it was. Your soul silently made a decision before your mind fully grasped it. It decided that the version of him who avoids, delays, and hides has no seat at the table of your future. It decided that love without responsibility and respect is not love you will participate in. It decided that, no matter how destined or sacred a bond is, it doesn't justify him disrespecting you or neglecting your needs. It decided that your heart will no longer be a waiting room for his potential to show up. This refusal of yours isn't rebellion or pride, it's evolution. You are not rejecting the core of who he is, the beautiful soul you fell in love with. You are rejecting the unhealthy energy and behavior he's been bringing. You're not pushing him away to hurt him. You are rising upward, and he can either rise with you or fall away. You aren't closing the door on a possible future with him. You're closing the wound of the past that kept hurting you. And once that wound is closed, then real transformation can begin, for both of you. Not because you gave up on him, but because you finally started believing in yourself. You choosing you was the breakthrough this journey needed all along. By refusing to settle for anything less than a love that honors you completely, you are actually bringing the true union, the one built on mutual growth, respect, and honesty, closer than ever. The silence this Christmas was never about him at all. It was about you finally choosing yourself. And that choice changes everything.